Hey guys, Spirit of the Law here. You may already know, or this could be news for you, but the next AoE2 DLC is coming out in February, focusing on 3 South American civilizations. They've been light on details so far, only giving us a handful of very zoomed in screenshots to speculate on. But as of today, we've gotten a whole lot of info on the 3 new civs, including a variety of screenshots, descriptions of their unique units and mechanics, as well as quite a bit of info about their campaigns. In this video, I'll summarize the highlights of what we know so far. First off, we know the release date is going to be February 17th, but now also confirm that even if you don't end up getting the DLC, one civ that's being swept up in some of the changes for all players are the Inca, and we should start by talking about them. What you're seeing in this screenshot is not one of the new civilizations. You can tell from the castle and the cameos spread around throughout that this is the new Inca architecture, which they'll be sharing with their fellow South Americans. I feel like it's been a quiet but long-standing critique that Inca didn't really have a similar architecture to Mesoamerican civs historically, and personally I love all the stone walls in particular, which feel like they match the castle much better now. In a similar vein, all of these South American civs, including Inca as well as the 3 new ones, are going to share some regional units, including the new Champi warrior, which are described as fast infantry who can build outposts and excel at scouting, raiding, and fighting ranged soldiers, which I have to say sounds a lot like an eagle warrior, with the extra ability to build, and maybe or maybe not the anti-cavalry and monk bonuses. The Inca's Slinger is then also a regional unit now, as their alternative to the hand cannoneer, though obviously available in Castle Age and not requiring chemistry. There's also a new regional building called the Settlement, which gives pop space and works as a universal resource drop-off point. I suspect this building, grabbed from some of the upcoming screenshots, is the Settlement, as it suggests something like a house on the right side with a food market up front and some wood and stone placed in view, with a size that splits the difference between a house and town center at 3x3 tiles. Depending on the cost, that could be nice for straddling a gold mine and wood, for example, or being essentially a lumber camp that you can surround later with farms as the forest is removed, probably giving a satisfying farm layout like the Folwark. Next though, let's jump into some screenshots and info about the new civilizations. The first is the Mapuche, hailing from the Argentina and Chile region, and they really lean into the post-European contact time period with a cavalry emphasis. They actually have 2 unique cavalry units, though it's not clear if these are both from the castle or from a stable. The first is the Kona, which are melee, appearing somewhat heavily armored, and deal extra damage to already injured units. We don't have exact numbers here, but it obviously synergizes with units that can pepper enemies with light damage before an engagement, such as skirmishers or scorpions. It almost sounds like the opposite of a Custier charge, where in this case the first attack is quite a bit weaker, but then subsequent ones hit harder, and is something we haven't seen in the game before. The other unique cavalry unit is the Bolus Rider, which is like a cavalry archer, but its shots actually slow down enemy units. That sounds pretty good for hit and run, and we'll see if this ends up being obnoxious to play against or not, as it might depend on how much slower they are and how much attack the unit has. We've seen a similar mechanic from White Feather Guards for Shu, slowing down units as their archers rain down tons of arrows. Remember, the Civ also has the Slinger and the Eagle Warrior alternative that can build outposts, and I suspect it's these guys over here, with the non-elite version on the left and the elite version on the right. I'm trying to sharpen the images a bit, but for some reason all the official screenshots this time are extra blurry, especially near the edges, so we have to leave the details to our imagination. As for the campaign, it seems the Spanish are the main antagonists, and follows a warrior named Lautaro as he seeks revenge for the destruction of his village. It's not clear if this screenshot is straight from the campaign, but it very well might be. You can get a sense of their army composition options, with the anti-infantry Slinger to pepper down enemy HP, the anti-archer Eagle Warrior equivalent, and then cavalry to add in mobility, taking advantage of pre-damage units in melee, and potentially even slowing down enemy cavalry and conquistadors or their Bolus Riders to force the enemy to commit to the fight. The next civilization are the Muisca from the region of modern Colombia. They're described as having an emphasis on economy, monks, and archers, where in addition to having the Slinger and Champi warrior like the others, they have 2 unique units. First, with the Guecha warrior as a javelineer that heals nearby Guecha warriors when it dies, and it'll be interesting to see how that interacts with mangonel shots and fighting archers head-to-head. The other unique unit is the Temple Guard, which is a heavy infantry that it says attacks faster as it remains in combat. Their campaign is El Dorado, and sounds like a very experimental campaign, where you can pick between 2 rulers and essentially play the campaign from one of 2 different sides. Again, it also sounds like Europeans make an appearance in this one, though the infighting between Muisca is the major focus. I assume this is their wonder in the middle, and I think we're seeing a lot of the temple guards that do increasing damage over time standing in front of the wonder, with then a group of the uniquely healing javelineers on the left. That said, there's one building I'm really not sure about that appears a few times, and almost looks like a mini watchtower built in with some water. It could just be their mill or monastery, but it doesn't really look like either of those to me. That said, they do mention an economy focus, so it might have a unique effect or just be kind of a weird looking monastery. Other buildings here like the university, barracks, and siege workshop are all very easy to recognize at a glance. We also see a blurry but unmistakable new hulk off in the corner, so the naval overhaul that was teased in November may be coming with this DLC on February 17th, and that seems to be confirmed elsewhere as well. And finally, the third civ is the Tupi from southern Brazil. They also have two unique units, with the first being the Blackwood Archer, who it says are inexpensive and train in pairs. Maybe not exactly the same, but that description kind of reminds me of the Karambit Warrior in Archer form. Their other unique unit is the Ibarapema Warrior, which is an infantry that deals area damage. We have seen that motif before with Cataphracts, melee elephants, Druzhna, and Urumi swordsmen, and presumably with a low enough attack, this won't necessarily be imbalanced. Again, I'm confident we see both unique units here, though the screenshots are pretty blurry despite my best attempts. A couple of things that jump out from the screenshot are the very distinct castles the civ has, as well as the taller palisade walls, which I think look really good, though they might just be scenario editor assets. It's always kind of hard to tell. Again, their campaign seems to follow the theme of fighting a rival tribe, but with in this case Portuguese as the potential ally you can try to get help from, as this is Brazil of course. I admit I'm a little distracted in this screenshot particularly by how nice some of the scenario eye candy is, and this feels straight from a scenario, with a special building created for the mission in the middle that you have to defend. This screenshot to me heavily implies the archers trained in pairs are what you make at the castle, and the area damage infantry units are made at the barracks, but you do have to be careful trying to predict from these screenshots. One thing for sure about the new campaigns is they really want to highlight levels of interactivity that have never been seen before in Age of Empires. Not even just Age of Empires 2 or outside of Chronicles, the whole franchise, and specifically point to important interactive decisions with effects that ripple through each campaign. Maybe controversially, they do mention heroes at the town center with abilities, though that's almost certainly campaign specific. These three civs are confirmed available in Ranked by the way, unlike Chronicles civs, and really feels like a return to just a classic AoE2 DLC. Personally, I'm really glad they're going back to just 3 new civilizations here, as the 5 in the 3 Kingdoms DLC was just too many all at once. Admittedly, there are some gimmicky sounding mechanics, slowing units down, doing increased damage to injured ones or over time, etc., but feels more reined in than 3 Kingdoms was. I also have to say I really respect that they're including Incas in this, so you can try some of the new regional aspects, like the eagle replacement and unique building, without buying the DLC. They did the same thing with Hindustanis, back with Dynasties of India initially, and between that and the regional castle and elite unit skins they gave out last year for free, it just feels like they don't put everything they can behind a paywall. Even if you don't get the DLC, you kind of get a revamped Incas to play with as something new, and they even mentioned going back and updating the Inca standalone campaign mission as just an extra freebie for what was previously a relatively unpopular scenario. If you are interested in the DLC, again, it's coming out February 17th, and a pre-order is available with a 15% discount. Either way, that's all the news that came out today, and I'm curious to hear what you guys make of it all. I suspect the single-player crowd in particular is going to love it, and of course I'll be covering it in more depth as we get into February. Thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you next time.